friends, it's Christy, and I'm so excited to be back with you on the My Favorite Things YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be making a card using this new Birdie Brown set called Unicorns and Glitter. So I've stamped out the images I'll be using on some neenah Solar White cardstock with black licorice hybrid ink, and I'm going to color with my Copic markers. I'm starting with the little girl, and for her skin I'm using E000, E00, and E11. So I'm laying in some shadow with that E11 right up under her hairline, along the back of her neck and her arm, and also down the backs of her knees, and giving her a little detail there where her knee kind of creases in the back. Then I'm going to grab the E00 and begin to blend that out a bit. I'll also color in the leg on the far side of her body completely with that shade, since there wouldn't be as much highlight. And then I'll use the E000 to finish her off and give her some rosy cheeks with the RV11, and then just tone that down with the E000 once again. For her hair, I'm using Y11, Y21, Y26, and Y28. I'm going to lay in some shadows with the Y28. It's less of a shadow and more of just a dark contrast in there. I'm doing that on the top of her bangs and along both sides of her braid and the back of her head. And then I'm going to bring in the Y26 and just pull that out a little bit farther. I'm using very fine strokes, using the very tip of my marker nib and a light pressure so that I can keep things really delicate and fit all four of those shades, which is going to bring in a lot more depth. If you wanted to simplify, you could easily remove the Y11. So next I'm bringing in that Y21. I'm going to pull that out a little bit farther, just leaving a little bit of white area for the highlight. Again, just going down both sides of her braid and adding in a little bit more of that shade. And then I'm going to finish with the Y11, but you could also just leave those highlighted areas white if you wanted to. For the majority of her dress, I'm using BG10 and BG11 so that I have some nice shading, but it still leaves it looking bright white. I'm also going to add some pleating detail by drawing a line from the top ridge on the bottom edge of her dress, and then blending out with the BG10 to soften that up and just create the look of depth there. I'm also going to color in her unicorn ears and the tips of her shoes with those two shades. Then I'm going to start coloring in her ruffles, and I'm going to do each layer a different shade. So the first layer is RV13, RV14, and RV17. And I'll also do the ruffles on her arms and on her boots with those same shades so that they match. Then I'm going to skip to green, so I'm using YG01, YG03, and YG05. And I want it to be kind of like a rainbow, but I don't have room for all of the shades, obviously, so I'm kind of skipping around from the front to the middle to the end of the rainbow, basically. So the last row of ruffles is going to be BV01, BV02, and BV04. So I started with the BV04 for the shadows, and then I'm blending that out with the BV02. And then I will use the BV01 to finish up that. I'm also coloring in that rainbow to match, and I will later color in the kitty's skirt with those same shades. For the kitty's body, I'm using C0 and C1 so that she's just a very pale gray. I laid in some shadows with the C1 and then quickly blended those out with the C0 and left the middle of her face just white. And then I gave her some rosy cheeks with the RV11, colored in the stars with Y13, Y15, and Y17. And then I'm also coloring in the unicorn horns on both the little girl and the kitty in rainbow order. So I'm going to add in orange with YRO4 and YRO7. I used RV10 on the insides of their ears, and then used RV10 and RV11 to color in the flowers on their crowns, and then used RV13 and RV11 to color her little ponytail holder, and then trim these out with the matching dyes. For the background, I'm taking the cloud stencil and blending on some tumbled glass distress ink onto a piece of Bristol smooth surface cardstock. I'm starting about the middle of the panel. I want the clouds to be toward the bottom, so I'm just blending up and letting that fade into white. Then I'm going to turn my stencil and add another layer of clouds right below that. And then at the bottom, I will just add a little bit more of that ink blending. I want this to look as if the little girl and the kitty are standing in the clouds. And so I wanted to have a little bit of a base for them to stand on with that blue at the bottom. I'm going to tap a little bit of that ink onto my work surface, water it down, and splatter it across the panel just to give it a little bit more interest and texture. Then I'm taking one of the Stitch Scalloped Basic Edges and trimming off the left side. I'll pop that into my MISTI and stamp out my sentiment using extreme black ink. I'm going to use the one that says "You are straight up magic." And I did stamp that down twice to get a really dark, bold impression. Then I will set that panel aside to dry and pop my card base in my MISTI. I'm using the snow cone cardstock, and on the inside I'm stamping out the little dog and a trio of stars and the sentiment that says "Thank you for believing in me." I trimmed down a strip of pattern paper from the Party Patterns 6x6 pad. It has that really pretty rainbow stripe that inspired my coloring. So I'm going to glue that down on the left-hand side of the card. I just trimmed that, I think it was about 3 inches or something. I just made sure that it was going to be large enough to cover all of the area that won't be covered by the focal panel. And then I added some foam tape to the back of the focal panel so that I can pop that up and give it a little bit of dimension. So I just peeled off those release papers, and then I'm going to line that up on the right hand side of the card, just making sure that that is nice and straight, and then I can press that down into place. Thought that was kind of fun to have the rainbow going down the side. And then I'm going to grab some liquid glue to adhere my images, starting with the little girl since she's the largest. I'm going to put her down on the left-hand side of that cloudy border, just with her feet kind of planted in that blue area down at the bottom. And then I'll take the little kitty and put her on the right so that they're kind of facing each other. I'll add the rainbow up in the top cloud area, right up under the sentiment. And then I'll use the 2 little shooting stars to kind of just accent on either side of that. So I'll put one below the rainbow and then one right up to the left of it. As a final embellishment, I added a sprinkle of sparkling clear sequins to the card, and then I'm going to take some crystal stickles and just fill in the insides of each of those sequins so it has a nice little sparkle to it. I also added it to the shooting stars and to the centers of each of the flowers on their crowns. And that is going to complete my card for today. I'll lift that up to the camera so you can see all of the detail and give you another peek at the inside. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the March edition of Christy Gets Crafty with My Favorite Things. If you did, please be sure to hit that like button, and you can leave me a comment down below. I love chatting with you guys down there. And don't forget to subscribe to My Favorite Things for more inspiring videos just like these here on screen. Bye-bye.